According to a recent YouGov poll, 1 in 6 Britons believe the moon landing was staged. 21% of people between the ages of 25 and 34 years old are convinced it was all a complete pack of lies. The theory that Earth is flat rather than round is less popular, with only 3% of Britons believing that we live on a flying disc hurling through space. Over the pond, in the States, 19% of Americans feel that the government used chemicals to control the population. 22% believe that climate change is a hoax.
How dare you!
23% believe that 9/11 was an inside job, and over 1 in 4 citizens are quite sure that little green men are hiding in Area 51. My name is Adam Felton, and this is the introductory episode to my new podcast, The Average Joe Conspiracy Show. So in 2021, I'll be inviting people onto the show, just ordinary, run-of-the-mill individuals, to discuss why they believe in certain conspiracy theories, and to see if I can either throw a spanner into the works, or maybe they'll drag me down the rabbit hole with them. I guess my objective is to have as many conversations about as many theories as possible. I want a fact-based, impartial, open-minded conversation, however I will be playing devil's advocate. I believe that I'm naturally a skeptical individual, but that doesn't mean that every conspiracy theory out there is just a bucket of dribble. Operation Paperclip, for example, once was a conspiracy theory. This was a secret program where more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers and technicians were taken from Germany to the United States after the Second World War and employed by the US government, many of who were former members and even leaders of the Nazi Party. This is now considered historically accurate. There was also Operation Mockingbird. This was a large-scale program operated again by the CIA that began in the early years of the Cold War. They attempted to manipulate national news media for propaganda purposes. Again, this conspiracy is now very much proven. And more recently, there was a theory that the US government was spying and collecting data on its citizens by accessing conversation from personal emails, phone calls and even text messages. This was proven to be true in 2013 when Edward Snowden, a former CIA employee, became a whistleblower, leaking classified information to the public after fleeing the United States. So taking this into account, it is more likely that a conspiracy yet to be discussed on this podcast will be accepted as a true fact in years to come, so I'm inclined to think twice before ruling out many conspiracies. So according to Forbes.com, research conducted in 2016 showed that people aged between 25 and 34 are more likely to be gullible. Thousands of fake scams were sent out to thousands of individuals, and it showed that millennials were more likely to fall for it. Although there must be other points to consider when reviewing this data, it is true that elderly millennials are more gullible. If you are one of these individuals, please like, share and subscribe, and I will send you a MacBook Pro. I was certainly not an exception when I was growing up. I was far more susceptible to eccentric ideas, which is fine, and studies prove that you are more skeptical as you grow up, but I've personally learned that you can't live in an echo chamber where everybody has the same thoughts and beliefs. I think it's healthy to surround yourself by new and interesting ideas. So a perfect and personal example of this was when I was researching the Titanic as a teenager. There was a conspiracy around the Titanic and her identical twin sister ship, the Olympic. The Olympic was involved in a serious collision with the British warship, the HMS Hawke, where the ship penetrated the starboard side of the Olympic, leaving a hole several metres high. The insurance company actually ruled that the Olympic was at fault, so would not pay for the substantial repairs. The White Star Line, who owned both the Olympic and the Titanic, calculated that they could not afford to properly repair the wounded ship. So the legend has it that over the space of a weekend, only using a small crew, both the Olympic and the Titanic secretly swapped identities whilst berthed together on the River Lagon. So when the Olympic, disguised as the Titanic, sailed on her maiden voyage, the ship was deliberately sunk, resulting in the shipping company receiving an insurance payout and avoiding financial turmoil. So there are far more details to this conspiracy which I haven't raised, which I'd love to have a discussion about on a later episode, but I just wanted to raise a few points to show that for me as a teenager this was more than enough evidence to prove that the Olympic was currently at the bottom of the Atlantic. So the first point is that a survivor of the Titanic reported that during the maiden voyage the ship had a clear list of 2 to 5 degrees, identical to the Olympic as a result of the impact to the starboard side months before. Also, although both ships were identical, there were minor differences to tell them apart. So for example, the Olympic was built with 16 portholes at the front of sea deck and Titanic was only built with 14. However, there are famous images of Titanic leaving Southampton showing the Titanic with 2 more portholes than it should have. There are also photos where the ship's name has been slightly changed, and there are clear images of the Titanic with patchwork in the exact same place where the Hawk hit the Olympic. So to a lot of people, including my teenage self, this was more than enough evidence to prove that the most famous nautical disaster of all time was actually just a giant jar of horseradish. I'm keeping that in the edit. So it's only until I revisited this conspiracy theory at a later date I was far less convinced, and it's only until I started reading articles that proved that actually there are far more plausible explanations. So although it was reported that the Titanic did have a slight list, it wasn't uncommon during the period, and it's only if the original witness was correct in his observation. Also, after the Titanic sank on the 15th of April 1912, killing over 1,500 passengers, the ship immediately became famous, so much so that any pictures or memorabilia of the ship was well sought after. There was a slight problem. Because the Titanic sank pretty much straight after the darn thing was built, there were very few photos actually taken of her. However, some cunning scallywags came up with an idea to make a pretty penny. They would use photos and footage of the Olympic and sell them to the public as genuine Titanic images, doctoring the ship's names on the image negatives if necessary. So to me this seems like a more tidier and plausible explanation as to why those photos exist, all the discrepancies with the portholes and the damage to the Titanic. And, unastonishingly, I've come to the conclusion that it is the Titanic currently sleeping at the bottom of the Atlantic. What a revolution. But I'm in no way saying that all conspiracy theories are plausible, and I'm certainly not saying that no conspiracy theories are real. I like to think that every conspiracy theory should be treated on its own merit. I think that sensible, fact-based conversation should be had, and a bit of fun along the way. Whether you're the sort of person that hangs around in the desert in a caravan in only your underpants, a tinfoil hat and pot noodle stains all down your front, or if you're somebody who's stubborn and just will not change your mind on any sort of conspiracy theory. Tune in. I'll be downloading 2 podcasts a month. I'll be talking to a variety of different people about a variety of different subjects. It'll be available on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. Also, if you want to see my hairy face, I'll be available on YouTube. We have a Facebook page and a Twitter page where you can have conversations, you can raise questions and have debates. It's just all in the name of fun. So why not give it a go? If you've liked this content and you want to see more in the future, please like, share and subscribe. And thank you for listening.